evening. We're glad you could join us tonight. We're here at the Hale Center Theater in Orem to experience the magic of the Hale Center Theater stage, where we will be able to go back in time and have a visit with the March family. Come join us. Thank you for having us. I'm so delighted to be here with you tonight through the magic of the Hale Center Theater stage. It is such a thrill to be able to go back in time and spend a few minutes chatting with some of our most beloved characters from American literature. So tonight we have the March family. I know all of you have read Little Women and you're wondering, what would I ask them if I had a chance? Well, I'm excited because tonight we get to ask some of your questions to the March family. First of all, let me express my heartfelt sympathy to you. Beth was such a gentle soul, and she will be missed by all. And I know you loved her, and we all loved Beth, and our thoughts go with you. And also, we're missing Meg because I understand she's busy with her family and couldn't get away tonight. But we do have Aunt March and Laurie and Amy and Joe and Marmee. So let's start with Joe and Amy. Marmee read a letter from Mr. March in which he exhorts you girls to fight your bosom enemies bravely. What would you consider to be your bosom enemy, and have you discovered a way to manage it?
Well, mine is definitely my terrible temper. I am so quick to anger, especially with my sisters. But Marmie's taught me really well to just never let the sun go down on your anger. It's not worth it. I mean, we love each other so much and we get along so well. Most days. So I'm still learning to manage it, but my bosom enemy is definitely my temper, and it takes hard work and it takes a lot of effort to keep that under control, but it's worth it.
And to school your feelings.
Yes.
Yes. What about you,
Well, when I was younger, I tended to focus a lot on myself, and so I think that's something that I can work on, is focusing outward and trying to help others more.
I think you do a great job. So, Joe, here's the question everybody wants to know. Why didn't you say yes?
Oh. I'm assuming you're asking about Laurie's proposal.
Yes.
Well, I've only ever loved Laurie as a friend and as a brother. And it wouldn't be fair to either of us to get married. Marmee always said that we were never a true match for each other. We're both quick-tempered and easy to anger, and it wouldn't have been fair to compromise our happiness for trying to be anything more than the friends that we are.
Here's the second most popular question. Did you ever forgive Amy for burning your manuscript?
Of course. No, she is my sister after all. And like I was said, with my anger and my temper, I'm learning to keep it under control because, I learned that holding on to that and holding on to my resentment was just doing our relationship far more harm than a burnt manuscript ever could.
But it still was hard to lose all of that work.
Absolutely.
Especially when it's all handwritten.
Yes.
Marmee, how do you cope with being a single parent living in poverty? We know that your husband is off to war and things are in short supply and money is tight and it creates a lot of stresses. How do you do what you do so beautifully and gracefully?
I appreciate you saying that it's graceful. It never feels graceful. It always feels a little scary and hard. Part of it, I think, is the values that we focus on in our home. And I do what I can to serve in the community. I know that what my husband is doing is important. And I'm very proud of my girls. There are times I feel inadequate, that maybe I'm not meeting their needs and there for them enough. But they are so capable, and so I put some trust in them and a lot of trust in God.
One more question for you. A lot of your girls' time seems to be spent at home and out of doors. And in our time, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and so people are also spending a lot of time at home and out of doors. And what can we learn about sheltering in place and finding pleasure in the moment at home and outdoors from your family?
Well, I think they do amazingly and would be an excellent example to anyone who has to shelter. Their creativity, the plays that they put on, the characters that they create, the storytelling, their costumes, the food that they make. Beth used to make beautiful pastries, and she would cook, and they worked very, very hard. I think they were able to create wonderful entertainment at home. They read extensively, and I'm very proud of the way they use their time overall. And I especially am so proud of them. And Amy's a beautiful painter and beautiful artist, and Joe writes incredible stories and plays, and I think that they use their gifts and their talents, and they turn to each other. It's wonderful.
Great. That's a good example for us today. Amy, why this constant battle with Joe? Do you think it's because you're so much alike, or is it because you're so different?
Oh, I think it's definitely because we're very different. I think we both have very strong personalities, and for example, in a crisis, Joe will cut her hair, and I would never, ever do that to my hair. But yeah, I think that it's just this constant battle because we both do have such powerful tempers, and we fight a lot, but also we're the best of friends and we love each other.
When did you decide that you wanted to be an artist?
Oh, I've always dreamt of being an artist. Ever since I was little, I've just always grabbed a pencil or drawn on anything, and as I've grown and learned more about art and traveling to Europe and seeing all of these beautiful art pieces, that passion has just grown even more in me, and so it's just always been there.
Aunt March, hello. Let's talk to you for just a minute. You seem to have some pretty strong opinions about decorum and young ladies. And in your opinion, what are the qualities of an ideal young woman?
Well, most importantly is to make sure one marries well. So I see the women of my day as those who are providing for their husbands and for a good household and getting involved in society and making sure that they set a nice standard for their family. So most importantly is to serve others and to be there and be a part of an important society.
And so which of the March girls do you think best fits that ideal?
Well, I think they all have some endearing qualities, and I would say, first of all, that I love Jo's passion, which I can relate to, and her stubbornness, which I can also relate to. So we do have a special bond there, but Amy has really taken a place in my heart as I've grown to appreciate her love for the arts and for the finer things, as do I. So she does take after me in that way. But I do love the compassionate heart of Meg, which I also have underneath there somewhere. So we enjoyed her with us and her gracefulness. So they all have a little bit of everything endearing to me.
So you've been widowed for quite a while, and you've created a comfortable life for yourself. What advice do you have for older women who find themselves alone today?
Well, I find myself surrounded by wonderful people. I make sure I'm involved in the society, that I am involved in everybody's business, so I can always be helpful, whatever needs I need to help with. And I make sure that I know all the current events and that I keep up with the wonderful Concord, city of Concord that we live in. So I think being involved with others, I always have a companion with me, and that was Jo at the beginning, until she decided to go live a different life. So I had Amy come and join me. So I always made sure I had someone with me. I think that is what is most important, is to surround yourself with people who love you and that you can love and boss around.
Well, you're sharing your wisdom and opinions, garnered by experience.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
So, Laurie, when did you realize that Amy was the true love of your life?
Well, it was during our trip, or her trip to Europe, which I joined spontaneously. But I really grew to understand her sweet character. Sure, she does have a temper, and so does Joe. But Amy is very sweet and very thoughtful, and she can. I love her art. I love her painting, and so I fell in love over time as we really enjoyed quality time together, and without the regular stressors of life. I think that was a nice way to fall in love, was to be able to spend time without feeling anxious or needing to get on to some new thing. But so that was when we fell in love.
Amy, when did you realize that Laurie was the love of your
Oh,
life?
I think the exact same thing. When we really had the chance to get to know each other even more, when we both met up in Europe and we finally had that time to spend together, and that was when I knew.
Wonderful. So, Laurie, what were your first impressions of the March Girls
Well,
when you met them?
they are very different from the rest of society. And I really appreciated that because I am different as well. Having come from a harder background and never really knowing my parents very well before they passed away. Well, I appreciated their spontaneous nature, because I lacked that in my life. I felt very alone, and they were very companionable. So those were qualities that I appreciated in the March Girls, especially as I felt very different from society.
Amy, you seem to care a lot about appearances, and why do you think appearances are important?
Oh, I think appearances in society are the most important thing that you can do. Showing that you are mature and that you have grace in a society is the way that you can find a good husband and a way that you can really just make your way in society.
They are key to a girl's success.
First appearances or first impressions are everything, aren't they? It must have been hard having everything handed down, being concerned about appearance and having everything handed down, your clothes, shoes, skates, and everything. Were you ever worried that Laurie was handed down?
Well, I think that I know that Joe and Laurie were really, really close growing up, but in the end, I think that we were perfect for each other in every way.
Oh, I agree. Laurie, tell us about your favorite memory with the March family.
Well, this may seem odd at first, but I would say it's when I rescued Amy from the pond, and we
Oh, that was so frightening. Wasn't it?
we really bonded at that point because we realized that we don't have forever, and I really grew closer to the March family in that instance, and really got connected to more than just Joe. We had been friends up until that point, but at that point I really became close with the sisters, and eventually my grandfather and I became very close with the entire March family since that point. So
and you promised Amy that you would give her her first kiss.
That's right.
So, raising bright and creative children is hard. It takes a lot of energy, and you're alone. Your husband is off at war. How do you keep from losing your mind? I mean, with all of the noise and the confusion and the creativity that is just oozing out of every corner of your house.
A little quiet time every night to recover. And the good moments. Being grateful for and clinging to the good moments. Clinging to Father's letters were a great strength for all of us, and especially for me. Yes, I, like so many parents, taking it one day at a time and recovering and resting and being grateful for the really good moments.
What brings you joy?
I'm most happy, I'm most grateful and joyful when my daughters are getting along and love each other, because I know they love each other so much. And when their passions are bringing them together and not pulling them apart, that brings me tremendous joy. That and seeing them use their gifts. I love Joe's stories. I love Amy's drawings. I loved Beth's music. I love Meg's romantic personality and her warmth and her enthusiasm. So when I see them happy and loving each other, that's the most joy.
Wonderful.
Well, that's all fine and good, but it should be money. It should be your social status.
Yes, that March.
So, Joe, what do you consider the best thing that you've ever written?
Oh, I adore my blood and guts stories, but the best thing I've ever written was the story about us and the story about my sisters and my family and growing up. It's my favorite thing. It's how I keep Beth around for me. She lives on in that story, and we all live with her. That's where we are together forever, and I love it. It's fun to reminisce and to think about all of those ridiculous plays in the attic, and
Rodrigo.
I love Rodrigo and Hugo and Clarissa. It's my favorite.
You are very passionate about life. In fact, sometimes maybe a bit of a little tropical storm, tornado, whirling dervish flying around. Very passionate about life, but you've been through some really difficult times and some difficult things. You've been through death and poverty and self-doubt. What advice do you have for young people today that might be experiencing those same things?
Surround yourself with good people that lift you up, whether they're family that you were born into or family that you choose. Love them fiercely and run like you're on fire to your wildest dreams. You've got one life to live.
So, speaking of your wildest dreams, if you had a day that you could go back and revisit, which day would that be?
Well, that is a tough question. There's so many. I loved going to the beach with Beth. I loved the plays in the attic. If I could get all of my sisters together again and put on, I don't know, some operatic tragedy, then I would love it. I would take any day when all of us were together. Any one of them. As mundane as it may be, any single day with all of us together again.
Sounds great. I wish we could be there for every single day.
What about when you were reading to me?
Oh, that was a high point.
We
of
fell
her
asleep
life.
every time.
Right.
I can't have been that good.
Was it Fordyce's sermons that she was sharing?
Oh,
or-
dear.
So many.
Oh.
They're very good.
So, Aunt March, what was your happiest day?
My happiest day was when my husband was alive and we were married. Those were wonderful days and I learned so much, but I do have to say another part was on your wedding day, and I was able to see all the lovely girls move on with their lives, with their marriage, and be able to pass on what I hold so dear to all of them, with giving my inheritance to them and such. And it's so lovely to see them grow and move on with their lives, and our legacy passes on for the
Indeed,
March
it
family.
does. Well, that's all the questions I have. Do you have anything that you would like to share with our audience before we go? Any pointers, any words of wisdom, any insights?
I would like to share that we need to live and we need to love. We need to reach out, excuse me, at difficult times when there's great division in the world. We need to hold on to each other and do what we can to be united, because we don't know what's ahead. We don't know if we'll lose someone special. And we should do what we can to control our tempers and forgive quickly and love fiercely.
Thank you. Those are great words.
I don't think we're so different as you today. I think we educate ourselves, we find moments of happiness, and we love our family fiercely and surround ourselves with good people, and that makes for a life of success.
And living in the moment. Living in the moment. It's wonderful. Well, thank you for letting us join you tonight.
Thank you.
And hopefully, the thing that's wonderful is that every time we open Little Women, we can visit you again and share these wonderful stories again and again. We've been sharing these stories with readers for 152 years. And so we're so glad that Joe took the time to write these memories down so that we could have them. And again, thank you, March family. And if you are interested in joining the magic of the Hale Center Theater stage, the play that will open on September 14th is called Blink, and it is another story about a daughter and a father and about love in families. And it's going to be a great production. Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll see you soon at another Orem Reads event.